start the recording first. All right, it started. Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining today for our healthcare-focused webinar. Today's topic is focused around how we are helping our customers in providing a secure digital clinical workspace in our customers' journey to digital transformation. For those who do not know me, I'm a core solutions engineer at VMware, and I am focused on healthcare customers. We have a guest speaker, Todd. I will let Todd introduce himself in a couple of minutes. And before that, I would like to say a couple of housekeeping things. First, that you can ask questions anytime if you see something interesting. Hopefully everything is interesting, but if you have any question, you can ask anything in the Q&A section. You can type it in, and then we will either verbally answer it or type answer back. All of you are muted, so you won't be able to ask anything on audio. If you see a hand raise button in the bottom, you can press that and I will unmute you, and then you can ask a question if you would like to ask on audio. Why are we covering Workspace ONE, or why are we covering this topic today? It's because we have been talking to a lot of our healthcare customers about their end user computing needs. And we hear a lot about MDM, MAM, UEM. I know I'm throwing a lot of acronyms at you, but you will know all about them today and more, hopefully. So in general, customers are saying and asking us to provide them a secure digital clinical experience, which means customers are saying, we want to realize full potential of our healthcare mobility, the investment that we have made, or they are looking to make that investment. And customers are saying, we want to provide a secure, real-time access to the patient data from anywhere and any device. That is one of our VMware's vision, to provide secure applications, secure patient information from anywhere on any device. And our healthcare customers are saying, we would like a seamless experience from when they're moving between devices and right to the patient bedside, and for improving clinician workflows and faster response time and patient care. In healthcare, it's all about patient care, right? They are the one who kind of, they are your end users, and they are deciding the outcome, and the technology that's being providing them, that is, that's what we are providing you. And customers are saying, we want to improve the patient experience, patient engagement, and provide real-time information about their stay, patient outcomes, and at the same time, transforming cost and quality of patient care. So that is kind of like at a high level, that's what we are aiming for. That's what we are providing our customers. And we have a lot of technical content today. So now I will hand it over to Todd. And Todd, please go ahead and introduce yourself, and you can start from there. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Adam. And good afternoon to everyone out there. My name is Todd Phillips. I am a senior solution engineer with VMware, and specifically on the end user computing side, and currently mapped directly to the healthcare industry and the healthcare vertical. And I'm in my 5th year here, and have been involved with AirWatch when it started as AirWatch, and Adam, of course, mentioned MDM, or mobility, or mobile device management. And so growing out of that has been very interesting. And going into Workspace ONE, which is, if any of you are aware of what AirWatch was, which was really focused on that device management side and really securing devices from the IT perspective, we have grown into Workspace ONE that's really looking at things in a different way. And so hopefully today you guys will get a bit of an understanding about what that means and where we're going from there. First of all, I'd just like to cover some of the challenges that I see and that we see every day when we're out visiting our customers and seeing what they are trying to deal with, both from the clinician's perspective as well as from the IT side. We'll go through a Workspace ONE overview, hopefully fairly quickly, just in that you can see what Workspace ONE kind of is, because it's a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And then finally dive into some use cases that we've seen, some success stories, et cetera, talk about what our intelligence platform is, which is almost a underpinning of Workspace ONE, and then some of the advantages. And of course, I want to leave time for those questions and answers. Please send those along to Adam, and I will try to break as we go so that we can make sure that those get answered. Today, when we talk about what it means to healthcare and what the forces are that are being applied to the healthcare industry right now, really we see four different things. We see the need to modernize the data centers and to get away from having racks and racks of different devices or different servers running the entire operation. The public cloud has become so huge with O365, Epic, all of the different applications that are used by whether they're clinicians or by the administrators and the office personnel at hospitals and medical clinics. We see that being something that they're really challenged with because of PHI, et cetera. Making sure that those people are as efficient as possible when they're moving from device to device, because no longer are they just sitting at one terminal or one area in a hospital. They're usually moving outside of those clinicians or the clinics. And then finally, just making security easier and better. So we talk about reducing the costs and the complexity of managing all of these different things, mobilizing the providers. And it's not just about the clinicians, it's also about the patient experience. And then finally, making sure that that PHI data is kept secure. When we look at the different things that are already in play at healthcare facilities, we know that VDI, RDSH, delivering either old desktops or managed desktops or managed applications to their clinicians is a huge thing. We've got different flavors of Windows out there, whether it's an old or a new operating system. Mac is making a big surge. We see that more and more. We've got, of course, all of the mobility devices, the Androids, the iOS, and the need for clinicians to bring their own device. They want their own device when they're outside of those four walls and can't understand why they can't use those for some activities. We also see rugged devices, Zebra, Kyocera, all of these things trying to be managed by that same IT department to know where they are, how they're being used. Chromebooks, very inexpensive and making their way into the digital workspace right now. And of course, those SaaS applications where that data is stored someplace else, and you've got to be able to authenticate these people quickly with all of those different passwords, all the different logins and credentials. So to support this, we've always seen Citrix, VMware, we've got vSphere running your data centers. In Windows, it's Intune, it's Active Directory. Altiris for for Mac, we've got Jamf out there for the mobile devices, AirWatch, which is near and dear, BitGlass, SOTI, AirWatch, G Suite, and then finally all of these different identity providers in the cloud that are trying to aggregate and make one portal available to that user and one set of login credentials. So there's this silo approach to all of these different point solutions for all of these different devices and operating systems that need to be run and run quickly. And so you end up with a lot of IT sprawl, a lot of different administrators that are very good in one area and weak in another, et cetera. So it becomes very hard to look and manage your environment. So that's another challenge that we see. And then finally, of course, there's Windows 10. Windows 10 is the first really true modern management system. It allows for that over-the-air management. Even Microsoft themselves say, we are moving away from this, you've got to be connected to the network in order to manage your Windows devices. And of course, the big date that's looming on everyone's head, every time we're visiting someone, they're always talking about January 2020. We've got to get off of our Windows 7 machines so that we're continuing to be supported by Windows 10. And that's a huge challenge. We're talking about re-imaging machines, how to get those into the hands of other people. How are we going to manage them when they're outside our four walls? We may have an IT department that's in one location and distributing laptops and desktops to 100 different facilities. And how do we get those back and update them, or how do we send people out to update those? Oh, we see that as well. Finally, BYO continues to be something that that healthcare is continuing to look at. Doctors don't want to be tied to a fully managed device where everything that they can see is on that device, or everything that IT can see is on that device. They want their own devices, but they also want to be able to check emails and be able to check patient records, et cetera. How do we enable them to be able to do this and still ensure security for the organization? And that goes all the way down to, did you download malware onto your device? Did you jailbreak your iPhone, or did you root your Android? And are you even authorized to run these applications or access this particular data? So those are some of the challenges that we see day to day as we go through. So let's talk a little bit about what Workspace ONE is, and perhaps a bit about how we're trying to meet those challenges that are being faced every day. So Workspace ONE is really a platform approach. Many of you have probably seen that Workspace ONE is an application in the App Store. Well, it is also the platform that allows delivery to the end user. So if the end user sees anything beyond their catalog and what they're authorized to do, somebody's probably dropping the ball someplace. So the end user gets to see what they need. It's very simple. It's always the same on no matter what device they're using, no matter where they are. And for the IT department, for the security people, you can always make sure that wherever that device is, it's going to be secure, and whatever transmissions and data is going down to that device isn't going to leak out into the wild. So Workspace ONE as a platform allows applications of any different type of operating system, and whether they're based in the cloud or on the device themselves, to be matched with any different actual device that's being used, along with making sure that the experience is there. There's no adoption without giving a good user experience, and this is consistent across the board. Every app, if I'm on an iPad, shouldn't I be able to see a Windows application if that's been made available to me? And we know that the iPad is secure. Modern management, making sure that we're not connecting devices all the time to the network in order to domain join them, or to make sure that they are with the gold image, etc. We also need to see what our environment looks like as a whole. With all of these different device types out there, it's almost impossible for one administrator to sit down and see what their exposure is at any given time to all of those different devices. And then finally, how do we automate those responses? How do we see that there is a problem here and then make advanced calculations on what's going to happen, and then notify the IT administrators, automatically remediate the problem before the administrator has even arrived? So really, at the heart of Workspace ONE, we have 4 different pillars, if you will. All of these come together to make Workspace ONE what it really is. Many people start with, what's the end user engagement like? Because that's what that app was called, Workspace ONE. And you downloaded it from the store, and then you got to see your entire catalog, everything that is allowed for you to use, whether it's an application or a website, is there in one area for you. So that's user engagement. It gives you the ability to push apps when necessary to specific devices when those specific users are going to need them all the time, versus allowing that user to download it on demand when they decide that they need to. So self-service for the end user. We also have identity. That is, who is this user? And what kind of device are they on? And is it managed? Is it not? Are they on a different network? Are they on an open network? We also have the UEM, the Workspace ONE UEM, which many will recognize as the AirWatch console. This is the mobile device management. This is where you're managing which applications go onto a device, which ones don't, the VPN, whether the device needs to be wiped or re-enrolled. the profiles that come down to it. And then finally, the delivery of virtual desktops, virtual applications, thin apps, making those things available that can't readily be accessed by mobile devices and other systems. Underpinning all of this is the Workspace ONE intelligence platform. And it's compiling and gathering data from all of these different pillars and then putting that together in an easy to understand view for the administrators to understand what's happening across their entire environment. When you look at it from an end user, the platform is it's the same across every device. So here we're actually looking in a actual application, Windows-based application that shows all of the different applications, websites, etc., that are available to this user. We've even got Windows applications, delivery of desktops, etc. So when you start to look at this, everything the user needs is combined into one port, and they're allowed single sign-on access to everything. And finally, to kind of cap everything out, we also have the Workspace ONE utility or productivity app suite. This allows you to extend everything you're doing for those devices that you own in-house, that you're really supervising and managing. Those are the ones that have come straight from Apple's DEP program or have been registered with Android Enterprise. By delivering these apps, which can be downloaded directly from the App Store, the end user is actually able to access those things that you have made available to them without even enrolling their device. This removes some of that big brother concern that many end users have because they really, really, really love their Android, their Samsung device, but the only company issued device is actually an iOS. So whether it's email, whether it's surfing the intranet and internal pages at your location, or it's actually viewing content that perhaps is available on a network share or on a SharePoint server, they can actually get to this nowadays with Workspace ONE without managing their full device. So at the end of the day, what we're doing is taking unified endpoint management. That means any device, anywhere. We're even rolling it out to Linux. So everything is available through a single pane of glass to the IT administrator and to the administrator that's just making things available to their end users. We also have app access control, so we can see where is this device. Is it connected to a safe network? Is it connected to our network? Is it on an open Wi-Fi in a McDonald's someplace? Is the device itself jailbroken or registered with us? And do we have management capabilities over it? And then finally, delivering all of those apps to them when and where they need it. So I know I've gone pretty quickly through this. I'm curious, are there any questions at this time that we should be answering?
I don't see any questions in Q&A. Again, if anybody has any questions, they can type it in Q&A. One question is, I mean, I get customer, they want to see like what the console looks like or what's the end user experience is. Are you going to show anything later? I'm assuming you do.
Yeah. I absolutely can. And why don't we go through what we've got, and then I will show what that end user experience kind of looks like. In fact, I might be able to switch over now, except I'll end up losing kind of the flow and then have to bounce back. So, but yes, that is my plan. And we can see what it looks like in an end user device. We can see what it looks like on an iPad, on a Windows desktop, etc. So when we talk about healthcare these days, really everything is expanding outside the walls, and no longer can IT guarantee that everything that they need to control, whether it's on a Wi-Fi hotspot or connected to the network, is going to be there. In fact, people are moving out into the field. They're going on house calls. There are offices set up outside the hospital itself, contractors, contract physicians that are out there. And how do you manage all of that data and still provide convenient care to the end user or to the patient without making it so difficult on the clinician that they just don't want to do it anymore, or that they go back to pen and paper, and now you have new security concerns. Well, when we talk about email, if you focus on email, for instance, today we don't even think about it, but only 10 years ago, it was really hard to get just email on your home device. Now it's almost ubiquitous. Anybody can get access to their email no matter what device they're on. What we're looking to do is to make this available to secure and easy access to those care providers, no matter what device they're on, just like email has been. The key to this adoption, as I mentioned earlier, is that you got to make it simple, and you've got to make it available on any device that they have or the one that they need. So what does that mean? That means if a provider is documenting a whole bunch of patient flows and what they've done during the day, they're going to use a keyboard. They're going to use a big monitor and a mouse, and they're going to enter everything. And that's going to be the way that they do it. But if they get that emergency call, they're going to need access to that patient data, to those applications, maybe from their personal laptop, or maybe from a tablet or an iPhone that they happen to be carrying with them. So when we look at the day in the life of a provider, it's really easy to see that. When you get up in the when they get up in the morning, they're checking their phone, they're checking their MacBook to see what happened. They get to the hospital and probably are badging into some sort of a Windows desktop, whether that's a virtual desktop or not. Getting off to the patient's room. I've got to get down and do some rounds here, grabbing an iPad and going down and needing that information for the treatment right at the bedside. Off to lunch, going back onto a mobile device, going into the actual the patient's room, and then pulling something up on the desktop that happens to be there. Back at their primary care, where they're doing their other job and trying to access EMR data from there, and then back to home, where maybe they're back on their personal laptop or MacBook. And so you can see the challenges that they face just with logging in and getting access to that data. And that's where we start talking about the digital clinical workspace. First and foremost, it's secure. It gives IT the ability to deliver all of these things without worrying that it's actually not connected to their network. It also gives a consistent user experience. It doesn't matter whether I'm on my iPad, on my laptop, on my MacBook, on my Chromebook. I'm going to see the same stuff and the same organizational flow no matter where I am. And it's any application, any device, and no matter where I am. IT gets to secure this and say, well, you know what, we're not going to give you access to patient records because you're on an insecure network, or we're not going to give you access to HiQ because you're not on our internal network. So lots of different caveats that could go with this, but the end user is always notified as to why they can't get to a particular app when they can't get there, and then understand how to remedy the situation or work from a different device. So we start talking about the essential capabilities that a digital clinical workspace is going to provide. First of all, it's going to be 24/7, every day, every week, every day of the year. You've got to be able to provide this data to the clinicians when they need it. And it doesn't matter what device or operating system they're coming from. We've got workflows where you say, how do we manage these BYO devices? How do we make sure that the person that's using this device is really the person that they say they are? Or was this just an unlocked device sitting there on somebody's desk? And then finally, making sure that the devices can have the data wiped, that we can segment our network and make sure that one application isn't requesting access to the entire network and opening up the entire internal network to one particular application, but rather focusing it in, maybe through NSX or firewall rules, to say this application gets access to this server and this data only. The outcomes tend to be pretty significant. University Hospitals of Cleveland did a study and found that they were saving 10 minutes per hour just in login times. by providing single sign-on experiences and a consistent user interface. It also means more time for patients. You're not trying to fiddle with the technology or run off and grab a laptop because you forgot to bring it in and bring it into the room with you or remember what your password was. It also means that providers get, particularly in situations where you've got contractor or outside clinicians working, where they get to choose their device and their preferred work style. They're really comfortable with Mac, but they don't like Windows, or vice versa, or they happen to have a Chromebook that they've just taken to. Providing that to everyone is a really good patient experience outcome as well as a clinician outcome. So when we start talking about patient experience, Android devices are fairly inexpensive many times. And so what we've done with Workspace ONE, no matter what the platform, whether you're on Windows, whether you're on Android, whether you're on iOS, we can lock that down into a single app mode or provide only those applications that you want to deliver to the patient and then give them some sort of engagement, perhaps through any of the Epic apps, et cetera. Just delivering Netflix and allowing them to log into that as they're sitting there, waiting for their service and be able to see what things are being provided. Also allow great customization to show what the layout is going to look like, et cetera. This is particularly using the Android launcher, which gives a wide range of choice for people using the device at their bed. Over at Mercy Health System, they did a study and figured out that 80% of patients were reporting an improved experience simply because they had access to all of the treatment information that was being provided to them just on an iPad that was sitting next to their bed. They all, or 76%, reported a better experience itself while they were there and got real-time interaction with that doctor. We're talking nearly 10,000 devices that are out there and managed or personally owned by Mercy. We talked about, as you see, this is the portal from the end user's perspective, for instance, a clinician, for a doctor, for a nurse. Their day-to-day life would be run through this particular application or website, and by clicking on that, they get single sign-on access. Horizon desktops and Horizon hosted apps can be delivered, as well as Citrix apps. But by delivering it through the platform, you don't actually need the platform. If the device is already hooked up to Horizon or Horizon desktop, Horizon hosted app, then you can start to provide that experience directly onto a machine and when you're talking about tap and go and turn and go treatment. So one of my colleagues actually recorded this quick video that shows two different systems and what that tap and go experience is kind of like. This would be the idea of a clinician coming in, badging into the system, perhaps back at the nurse's station, and coming in and taking a look at, in this case, I think we're going to see some x-rays. But within less than 10 seconds, they're already badged in and into the applications they needed to see. They can look at patient data and records and go back and forth, but now they need to get down to that patient room, and perhaps there's a desktop sitting down there as well. Badging in, it loads their new desktop, picks up exactly where they were left off, and did it in 10 seconds, in less than 10 seconds again, and you'll probably notice it automatically logged them out of the console that they were in back on the other side. We even have support for Linux desktops, Skype for business, etc.
So, Todd.
Yes.
I get, say, like what you just showed, customer asks, okay, would the experience be different if they go from Windows to Mac or from Windows to a VDI session or iPad? I hear that a lot. Would the experience be any different?
The only thing that changes with the experience is the form factor. So badging in or logging in on your iPad device, once you're into the Workspace ONE console, you can still bring all of this up and you're right where you left off. It may just be difficult to type in little characters, but you're going to be able to see it, pinch and expand the images, etc. So it is a desktop delivered, for instance, to your iPad. to your Chromebook, to your Windows machine, to your laptop. Did that answer the question okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So Metro Health already put this in and did some studies, found out that they were saving nearly 30 minutes a day per physician simply by eliminating those login times. When you talk about logging into a desktop and you start multiplying that by the number of people that you see every day and the 2 or 3 minutes that it might get just to load the desktop experience and then load that application for them, and they're looking at about, if I remember correctly, just shy of 900 beds, 500 physicians, and more than double that in nurses. Looked at it and said, by the end of the day, with the number of people that we're able to generate extra revenue by being able to see more patients, and the time savings involved in this, we're looking at almost $3 million a year. So Badge Tap and Go has really changed the way that they're working today. You know, big on that radar is Windows, and certainly people are used to nowadays walking into a store and pulling a device off the shelf, whether it's an Android or an iPhone, typing in a couple of key identifiers like what's your iTunes account, and then having everything automatically pushed over the air and ready to go. There is no waiting for IT to sit there and recondition the laptop, make sure that the gold image is on there, make sure that it's secured, load your software for you so that you can start working. What Windows is trying to do, and what we've been working with Microsoft and the Windows 10 people on, is turning this into that modern management capability. Traditionally, you look at deployments and how high touch that is, that a device needs to be delivered to your IT department so that you can reimage it, then only to pay for more shipping to send it on to the end user. Just configuring it. If you're not connected to the network, then you don't have SCCM or you don't have a VPN, then you can't configure it. We're talking about being able to patch things just with the sprawl of devices leaving and Windows 10 devices leaving the four walls. How do you know that they're up to date and patched? How are you managing your apps? Security, the compliance that we see generally when we go in and ask can be 80 to 85% at any given time with SCCM. And it's because we haven't seen those devices. They haven't been on the VPN. We don't know what their patch state is and what sort of a risk they pose to the organization. With modern management, we're talking about true out-of-the-box productivity direct from the manufacturer to the end user. Being able to provision those devices over the air from the cloud. Now, whether it's a minute or whether it's 20 minutes because it's a huge download, we're still talking about being able to get that to the device very, very quickly. So, and finally, real-time detection, remediation of problems. Just because a device connects to the internet, you should be able to see it. You should be able to know what the status of that device is, and is it vulnerable to something that just came out a few hours ago, without actually making them come in to the into the four walls before you know. When we talk about what that management means, we say day zero productivity. I think of it oftentimes as 0 hour productivity. If you're using Dell, if you're using provisioning techniques that are available through Workspace ONE, you can actually deliver those fully loaded with all of the software, all of the in-house things that you want to deliver to that device, and really have them up and running in a moment's notice. And I'll show that in a few minutes. It lets the user decide what apps they want. If they don't want to use particular apps, why slow them down by downloading that automatically? Perhaps it's a licensed application. And then back on the IT side, you're getting insights into everything that's always going on. So you can make sure that everything's up to date. All of the patches are applied across the different operating systems and devices that are out there. And start from a point. We don't trust this device, so how else can we trust it? Is it multi-factor authentication? Is it making sure that it's connected to an internal network, et cetera? I won't spend too much time talking about configuring devices over the air, except to say that we really do have 100% GPO coverage that you can push down to Windows 10 devices over the air and configure them completely. So you're not looking at using that legacy idea for everything that you do. Advanced tasks, you can say, look, I need to make sure that we've got a particular script on every machine because it needs to fire off at this time for an in-house app. Well, we can push those down. Make sure that applications are on the devices. And then, of course, you've got the full list of MDM capabilities that everyone has grown to love or hate over the years, which is making sure that a Wi-Fi profile is pushed down, getting them on VPN, restricting access to cameras, restricting access to software that's unknown, etc. Workspace ONE offers a lot of different methods to get your Windows 10 devices on board, all the way from the IT-driven side, which is saying we're going to co-manage this or coexist it with SCCM, but we are going to manage certain capabilities through Workspace ONE. We don't need AD join for those that are outside the offices, or maybe we do. You can figure that out, pushing down the VPN profiles as is. Wonderful technique is provisioning, where you get the factory or the people that are actually re-imaging a large amount of machines, perhaps in a migration from Windows 7 to Windows 10, to have those devices already owned and managed by the corporation without SCCM and with everything that they need already on them. All the way to direct shipping from the factory to the end user or to the clinic. And then there's user-driven. You've got those outliers that are sitting out there and they know they need to do their job. You send them a little paper, download this, type in your AD credentials, and then it will automatically manage the device for you and then be able to push down those applications or policies that you've designed to be for that particular user or device or clinic or what's the word I'm looking for? Division. We do also support Cloud Domain Join, out-of-box experience through Microsoft Autopilot, which is very, very similar, as many of you will know, to the Apple DEP program. Remove some of those buggy screens that are there and automatically have it managed and joined. In this quick demo video, I'm just going to show what it looks like for an end user getting a laptop directly from a Dell factory. No one else has touched this machine. Oops, sorry, clicked the wrong button. No one else has touched the machine, but Tony has just gotten his new souped-up laptop. He's logging in with his AD credentials for the first time into the domain that was there, and sees that a lot of applications are already loaded for him. He's already got all of Workspace ONE, or all of the O365 apps there. Google Chrome is also on there, which obviously doesn't come standard. But the IT department has already loaded some things that they need. VMware Horizon Client is already on there. But Tony knows that to do his job, the first thing he likes to do is check with everybody, and he really wants Slack on this machine, and having looked, he sees that it's not there. He's going to the Slack website. Now, this is a company-managed app, or can be, so he downloads it and then says, I want to install it, and we immediately throw up a toaster image that says, you can't do this, but please go to your catalog. He opens up the Workspace ONE application and goes over and sees that Slack is not installed. From here, he can install it. This will push it down and also push down all the configurations he needs for Slack to make sure that, as one of the users, it's a Power Slack user, he's going to be able to use it, but also have access to everything that the company has enabled for him on those internal Slack channels. So now he can see Slack. We'll go over to the console very quickly. Let's say that Tony has just left the company. He was actually pulled up in the snap, all right? And so what we want to do is give this to somebody else, or maybe Tony's laptop is just having a problem. We're going to reset this thing to factory defaults. What's very neat is that we can go back to exactly the way it was when it left the factory, plus the applications that he has already, as the end user, decided he wanted to download. So Slack is still going to be there for him, even though everything else has been reset. Move on. Boston Children's Hospital is really kind of a neat story here. They had a lot of potential security risks they were looking at. They wanted to get a patient portal up and weren't exactly sure how to tackle that. And with the explosion of BYO and IoT devices, came to us and we sat down with them and ended up getting on a program where all of their Windows 10 machines are managed through Workspace ONE right out of the gate. They've got the intelligence platform that underpins all of Workspace ONE, giving them those intelligent automations and being able to say, this device is in need of patching, et cetera. It removes those vulnerabilities, et cetera. And so if a device is compromised or they see that malware is on that device, they can instantly cut off network access so that the malware, for instance, can't distribute itself laterally throughout the organization. On top of, yes.
Just a quick comment and question that I get a lot from my customers. So what you just described is the true definition of a UEM, right? Managing Windows 10, your mobile devices, iOS and Android, doesn't matter, operating system. So that is a true, UEM. Now, what is like consumption model looks like, or maybe you will get there later, like customers say, okay, let's say I have Citrix environment or Horizon environment. For us, it doesn't really matter, right? We can still provide, we don't really care what's underneath, right? But how does it consume from a licensing point of view? If you're going to discuss that later, that's fine. We can postpone it to later.
Right, and we do play nice with everybody, and we understand that many organizations have a significant investment with Citrix desktops. We're not there to kick Citrix out the door. If it's working for you and it's doing exactly what you need, please continue to use it. We can still provide that single sign-on experience into a Citrix desktop just the same as we can to Workspace ONE application. And of course, we have device-based licensing, we have user-based licensing, et cetera. But it's pulling all of it together. It's the internal apps, the public apps, the private applications, the SaaS-based applications, and understanding exactly what the context of that device is when it's trying to access those applications. But, and a great question, and it kind of rolls into our integrations with O365. We support both the modern authentication as well as the legacy authentication, where you go to Office 365, you type in your username and password, or your email address and password. We can always do modern auth as well, which gives you the identity of you already being provided to Microsoft so that it really is a single sign-on. You've already signed into Workspace ONE. We know who you are. We know what user group you belong to. We know whether your device is managed or not. We know what kind of network you're on. We know if you're compromised. We even know whether you're in the United States or outside. We know if you're on a corporate Wi-Fi, if you're in an insecure Wi-Fi, et cetera. And by building that policy framework in between Workspace ONE and Office 365 can grant conditional-based access based on the device itself and the user that's using it. I won't spend too much time on this, but Dell Technologies World in 2019, just a month and a half, 2 months ago, announced a big partnership. We had Microsoft on the stage, we had VMware on the stage, we had Dell on the stage, all talking about a new agreement that we've reached to say, all right, well, we're going to start making our Horizon infrastructure available on Microsoft Azure. So now we can deliver, if people are looking at Azure and that's their product of choice, we can deliver those Windows virtual desktops through that, as well as advanced capabilities for O365 integration. So right now, if you've got a managed device, we've got tons of DLP capabilities. Anything that you can see in the Intune console for Microsoft that allows or disallows users or copy paste, et cetera, we can do that with a managed device, and we can push all of that down to the DLP console so that it really is a true single pane of glass, or to the Intune console. But going forward, we're actually working with Microsoft to set it up so that, hey, you don't even have to manage that full device. You don't even have to do a full management. We can say, this device is known and part of Autopilot, and feed that to Microsoft instead of having to, for instance, with a Windows 10 desktop, register it with them before you're able to take advantage of Autopilot. We can go the other way now, and those MAM controls are huge. And people have really been looking for that as a BYO scenario where full device management isn't necessary. Briefly, we are analyzing a ton of different data points every day because all of that information is flowing in, and trying with the old AirWatch system, say what's going on, who accessed us when, et cetera, and what was the device doing. What we've done is built an intelligence platform on top of that. It takes in all of the analytics of what's going on with the end user devices. We look at identity, who's doing what, how are the apps being used, et cetera, and even pulling in common vulnerabilities to say, from the database, to say, these devices don't have the proper patch levels. Ingesting all of that, aggregating it, and correlating it and making it available to the administrators, either in a dashboard or actually in automated procedures that we'll send out them, an email, raise a Slack message, raise a ServiceNow ticket. And so that they're always forewarned about what's happening, whether it's reporting, whether it's just the dashboard that they're looking at as they come into the offices. So with those integrated insights, yep.
Yeah, one of the examples customer actually provided was the integration of the intelligence in the battery system, where they were getting informed by end users' devices that their batteries are going down or they're going bad, basically, and automatically a ticket was submitted to order a battery for them, and that were delivered to them. So it's a deep level of integration, not just software, even to the hardware layer, right? I mean, that's what I heard.
No, and it is. It is all the way down, and we've got, obviously, for obvious reasons, everyone, we've got great integrations with Dell, all the way down to the BIOS, but it's other devices as well. You can walk in with a Zebra device. We can see that battery is going dead. We can see it with a laptop and say, instead of for instance, a doctor unplugging their device from the power and then walking into a patient's room and then having their device just go dead because they didn't realize that the battery was dying. Weeks before, we could have recognized that device had a battery with a really low health status, created a ServiceNow request, sent an email to the end user that said IT is going to be in touch with you to replace your battery, and we'll just work around your time flows and to alert IT that the thing had been ordered. And so it's proactive things like that are really making a difference out there as well. And when we talk about rugged devices, those things going down, it's expensive, and then you got to go back and find another device, et cetera. So we kind of talked about insights here and just being able to see the dashboard of what's going across the entire organization. And what we need to do is talk about app analytics, being able to know that users are actually using apps, that this app is failing all the time on install. How many people are actually using it on a day-to-day basis? And, we just updated it. When iOS devices try to launch it, are they all crashing? So we can see that and then provide automated functions based on that and alerting the admins or perhaps rolling back the new update as it goes out. Identity integration is the same thing. We can see that somebody's been trying to get in again and again and again from this device. Or this person just logged in from Boston, but then an hour later tried to log in from China. Physically impossible right now, and to be able to raise those alerts. What if they're using a licensed application, something that the hospital is paying for on a monthly basis? Maybe it's Salesforce or something like that, and that user has not launched that app in the last 6 months. Is that money that we can recapture and make sure that that person no longer needs it? We're going to decommission that license. And so we talked about automations, all the way down to CVEs coming in, being able to say a new CVE came out and it was released at 6 a.m. this morning, Eastern, and we're sitting here Pacific. By the time you even get to the offices, when it was released at 3 a.m. your time, by the time you get to the offices, we've already patched everything because there's a policy that you've already set that says we've got if it's a CVE of 9.0 or greater, automatically approve the KV and automatically push it out to any affected devices. Also notify our administrators that this has happened. Even being able to get into the offices and see, all right, we had this many vulnerable devices. Now I see this many. How many did we fix during the night? And then be able to go in and see exactly what happened when that KV got pushed. It failed, the user refused it, etc. So I know we're very close to time. So I want to stop here because we've talked about differentiators already, and I'll get into a couple of them. I've only got a few more slides, but Adam, do you have any questions, and have I blown through this too quickly?
No, I think you're doing great on time. No questions in the Q&A, but the question that I asked, that I get that a lot from my customers, so they are, applicable in general, so thanks for doing that.
No problem, and ask those questions, everybody. I love interaction. So when you start just looking at the management functionality and what is it like for an administrator with Workspace ONE to be able to manage a large deployment, whether it's 8,000 devices, it's 100,000 devices. We have customers with well over or reaching 500,000 devices and more. You start to understand just how difficult management of that many devices can be, even when most of them are iOS. So Workspace ONE gives the ability to manage things in a hierarchy and in almost a tenant structure, so that, for instance, if you have multiple hospitals across the region, you're not close enough to those users, but you do know that you want to impose particular corporate mandates about passcodes and whether particular applications are ever accessed off network, et cetera. You can push those in at the top level, but then give management capabilities to administrators at each of those hospitals, and then sub-management abilities to perhaps the nurses or the physicians or the administrators, so that they can handle those day-to-day requests. Where somebody says, my email's not flowing, and they can go in and look and say, well, you removed the app. Here, let me push it back for you. My VPN's not working. Okay, let's take a look and see, oh, you removed your certificates, or the certificates were removed, or you reset your device. Let's just get you back up and running, because it's very easy from the console. And what's interesting about that is that it's very easy no matter what device type it is, because it's all consistent, or so consistent that if you know how to do one, chances are you're going to know how to do the other with whether it's going from iOS to Windows to Mac. You can see, oh, this is very similar to how I did that one, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it this way as well. So just for administration capabilities and security of not being able to see the devices that don't belong to you. If I'm the administrator at one hospital, I shouldn't be able to see all of the devices of everybody at the other hospital. We already talked about it really is a single pane of glass. And you can filter and get more granular as you go, but I get to see all of the apps that are pushed out there. I get to see all of the devices that are receiving them and the device types, and what their status is. Are you compliant or not compliant? And I should point out, again, only at the level that I'm authorized to see. So if I'm at one hospital, I'm not going to be able to see the other guys aren't doing their work and don't have everything up to date. We're really extending what is possible with Windows 10 management. We talked about that onboarding, whether you want to push the management capabilities and some of those over to Workspace ONE, or use a product that comes with Workspace ONE called Airlift, which will pull any or all of your apps, any or all of your GPOs, and push those over onto a Windows device. All the way down to configuration over the air and managing how those look and being able to see them instantly as to wherever they are in the world. If they've got an internet connection, we're going to know within 5 or 10 minutes whether that device is up to date. Pushing software, you don't have to have that huge server overhead and bandwidth that's required for pushing out applications or patches, because first of all, we'll take care of using peer-to-peer with Windows, so that KBs can be pushed from the peers, but also be able to use CDNs, content delivery networks, so that whatever server happens to be closest to that user, wherever they happen to be working, is the one that's delivering the app. So much better experience for the end user. And then, of course, being able to see that security and understand that, okay, this device has BitLocker encryption, this one doesn't. We need recovery keys, et cetera, and to be able to escrow those keys. So full device lifecycle management, all the way down to being able to push renewed certificates. I won't go into the sales pitch, but we really are best in class in iOS. Our Android integrations are second to none. We're pretty much unique with Chrome. Mac OS, there's just about nothing that anybody else can do that we can't do. And again, the consistent approach for the administrator, going from a Windows app push to an iOS app push to a Mac push, very easy to consolidate the administrator capabilities and knowledge transfer that needs to happen. So with that, I'm going to ask if there are any final questions.
Yeah, so I also get asked if Workspace ONE will be available as SaaS, or is it just going to be on-prem? Right now it's on-prem, right?
Workspace ONE? Workspace
Yeah.
ONE, in fact, I would recommend that it run in the cloud because it removes a lot of that administrator IT overhead. All it is it's the brains that says, okay, here's this device, what do I do with it, et cetera. So, but yes, Workspace ONE, the platform, runs either in the cloud or on premises.
Okay, so it's available as on-prem, as in a perpetual license model, as well as a consumption-based model in the cloud, so as a service.
Absolutely. And, when we talk about that, the applications themselves, we've got the Workspace ONE application, or the Intelligent Hub application, that sits on every different device type. That's consistent with the delivery over the web of that same catalog. So you can make sure that your users, if they're working at grandma's house today, or they're at the company, or they're at their grandma's picnic, and get that emergency call, they can run in and log into grandma's machine and open up a web browser and go right to whatever.hospital.com and be able to see all of their applications. Maybe they've got multi-factor authentication that they need to do. Certainly you're not going to allow them to download Windows apps to that device, but they can actually do their work from anywhere based on the security policies and profiles that the administrators have decided for that particular application. You may have a customer or a company directory. Like, how do I get a hold, what's the extension of everybody here? That may not be something that you're worried too much about security. So as long as they've logged in, they're good. Whereas there may be another app that you've got that may deal with some PHI. And you're like, no, you're not going to be able to access that from anywhere. You've got to be on premise, because the only time that you would need this data is if you're within the four walls of the hospital anyway.
All right. That's all the questions that I had from my customers, and we are right at 3 p.m. Central Time. I think we covered everything, and if nobody has any other question, we can finish it off. And
I would say, because we weren't able to see any videos, if you go to techzone.vmware.com, It's a great landing point to see just what is out there, particularly if you're familiar with AirWatch, but just to get general overviews, techzone.vmware.com. Lots of good videos, and then you can actually see what it looks like from an end user perspective, because I didn't get into that.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. And if you guys have any questions, you can send it to me directly if I am your core SE. And if you have another core account team, you can send the questions to them. They will eventually end up with Todd, and we can answer them right away. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of the day, and see you in our next webinar. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam.